Thank you, Njonjo. Thank you, Gladwell, for marshalling this together. It's an excellent effort and I think a very useful contribution to the times that we are living in. Makolo, Morris, I recognize your presence and thank you for sitting with us and very many other people around the room. So I think the framing for this discussion for me should start with the peace versus justice, the peace versus accountability debate. I think that is where the media's own role, the role that the media plays or can play, is located. It's located in that larger question. So we, even before the troubles of 2007 that have so forcefully thrust the peace campaign in our face, we had concern about violence. We had had violence in 1992, we had had violence in 1997. So violence has been a key feature in the country's elections. So that the former Electoral Commission had then designed a method of trying to bind political actors to a commitment of non-violence. So you remember they had a code of conduct that political parties must subscribe to, and that code of conduct specifically requires political parties to pledge that they will not support violence in their campaigns. And this goes to the period before the troubles of 2007. And then 2007 happens, but 2007 happens also in a context where the Electoral Commission had established peace committees around the country. So there were village peace committees, which were structures the ACK had put in place as a way of trying to encourage and promote a peace campaign. So clearly the peace campaign and through those structures did not work, and something else was needed because notwithstanding that, we had the violence of 2007. The period post-2007 was then characterized by the efforts at restabilizing the country, and then we had finally a new constitution in 2010. And the new constitution reflects the concern the country had come to have around violence and or the possibility of political violence. And the constitution specifically requires the IEBC, which we came to have under that constitution, to ensure that political parties have a concern for peaceful elections. And the IBC has then directed political parties that they must subscribe to a code of conduct that encourages, that promotes peace and that discourages the use of violence by their members. So their concern about non-violence then gets consolidated because of the experiences of 2007, and also gets consolidated including through the new constitution and the way it looks at elections. So we then move towards 2007, and we have the terrible legacy of 2013, then we have the terrible legacy of 2007 that we are still living with. In addition to that, we have accountability that we are trying to establish for what happened in 2007 through the ICC cases. So the ICC cases are sort of these an unknown quantity. You've got players in the 2013 election who are also facing charges before the ICC. So we've got a significant amount of unease in the country because of that situation. So because the violence had been so recent, it was expected that the campaigns were going to be particularly the campaign was particularly going to focus on a requirement on the idea that we should not have a repeat of the violence. So we had a very, very clear peace campaign characterized by a very, very visible alliance of international actors, the UN and its many agencies, Kenya's friends, he supported hugely a specific peace outlook for the elections. The EU gave 35 million just to promote peace. The Americans gave $36 million just to promote peace. And all that went, as they came to review it, into what they considered to be their R2P effort, the responsibility to protect. So after the 2007, after the 2013 election, internationals view Kenya as a successful R2P example where their huge intervention by supporting local peace actors, they were able to forestall the possibility of violence. That characterization greatly annoys some of us, and we completely disagree with it, but that's a debate for a different day. So the 2013 election, because of all this alliance of internationals and alliance of locals, religious groups and peace groups, we have a huge waging of peace campaign, and everybody's sort of being told, silence, don't question anything, there's peace in progress. So we went into those elections fearing to question and fearing to ask accountability questions. The election didn't go right. It had the same problems as 2007. The difference is that unlike 2007, then there was no space for asking questions because of the success with which the peace campaign had been waged. So we emerged from the 2013 elections with the ICC cases still with us, to Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto are now in charge of the country and they're facing those cases. The uncertainty that they went into into the elections still lingers, but it has been heightened by the fact that they are now in charge of the country, and it is not clear whether if they go down because of the ICC, are they going to let go of the country, or are they going to go to let the country go down? We emerged from 2013 also with the problem of terrorism. The Westgate happens in September 2013, barely 4 months after Jubilee has been in power. So Jubilee is struggling to consolidate itself in office. It's dealing with a significant terrorist crisis. It's facing charges before the ICC. It's facing an economic meltdown similar to the one that is going on. And it is extremely shaky as a government. It is not consolidated. Its hold on power is extremely tenuous. And then we have the efforts by the opposition to try and shake things up a bit. And remember that series of rallies that ended with Sabasaba in 2014, which the media then gave a complete blackout. The media had a build-up for that conference, for that huge meeting by the opposition at the park. And when the meeting itself happened, all the media prevented itself from covering the conference, from covering the rally. And they were running Mexican soap operas when a big, huge rally was going on. We have had huge debates about how the media justified its action around that time. So I'm bringing the media into this debate by saying, because of the fears the country had, media had, like all other actors, had been silenced in the way they could cover the political happenings, because of the fear that if they ask questions, then problems could arise from asking those questions. Their own coverage of the 2013 election and their problems was characterized by that same concern, and they said, if you ask too many questions, they hadn't even invested into the possibility of asking questions about the problems. So I remember, and Sima will remember this particularly well, because we then, after the 2013 elections, and we made a fairly robust complaint to Nation. Nation said, it is not that we are fearing to cover, we just don't have content. So they were not prepared, they didn't have content. So they said at some point, give us content and we'll run it. And I remember we prepared content, remember? And they actually ran it. So one of the problems became media was not prepared because media didn't have the appropriate content that was of a questioning nature, because the flavor of the season was peace rather than asking questions. a little after the 2013, as we enter the election period now again in 2017, I think Jubilee has consolidated itself in power. You feel they're in charge of the country, the ICC cases have gone away, everything is fine. So the idea that this could be blown away by the smallest of the winds has also disappeared. The ability for the media to ask questions has also re-emerged. So in a sense, media has been a partnership with Jubilee. Media has been saying Jubilee is too weak to be questioned. So because they were vulnerable, we will not ask any questions. Now that Jubilee are strong and they can take questions, media can also assume a more questioning character towards the government. So I think that the question for me is, does then media exist for the welfare of the government in power, or does media exist for the welfare of the general public? I think that's a question that media would have to ask itself. Now, how do we move forward? This country has a problem called gunny sacking. Gunny sacking is the problem of storing up grievances and slights in relationships. If you feel your spouse has wronged you, instead of confronting your spouse, you store it somewhere in your mind. You say, yesterday I didn't find my shoes when I was leaving home. Then you go, your supper is not ready, and she's gone to a prayer. And she's also storing up against you. This guy came late and it was my birthday. The following day it was Tim, our son's birthday, and he's gone off to play golf. He doesn't care about me, doesn't care about us. So when you store up and the other person is storing up, it makes it very difficult to have a normal relationship. It makes it very difficult not to magnify small grievances. When finally things explode, they explode in a manner that it is very difficult to control. Now, that is how we run politics in this country. We store up, we gunny sack. Since 2013, the 2013 election is itself an occasion for huge grievances as an event. But those grievances have never been addressed, and we are going into another election. Those grievances completely intact. Then you need to add the grievances that the opposition has gathered along the way from 2013. They include when they were being tear-gassed here in the streets. And why were they being tear-gassed? They were being tear-gassed because they were trying to create an occasion where they could discuss the problems of 2013. So that did not happen. They were humiliated again in this period. We had the parliamentary process where we agreed on getting rid of the ABC. Then Jubilee went to Parliament and torpedoed that process using its numbers. Another set of humiliations. So we go into elections with all our grievances intact, and there are no channels for dealing with those grievances. So where does the peace thing come in? It comes in because all of us expect that surely these grievances will some way find expression in this election. So this election can't be peaceful because we've accumulated too many grievances. The couple building up gunny sacking thing, that is what we have as a country. So none of us expects peace. So the relevance of the peace campaign can't go away, continues to exist, and continues to be relevant for us because everybody knows we've been gunny sacking. So the peace campaigners must be here to say, look, we know you are aggrieved. We know these guys are terrible. We know these guys have never created channels for you to whatever, where we could process things. But sorry. I hope you don't gunny sack this, eh? So what everybody then is saying is they expect that because there have never been genuine opportunities to discuss our problems, there could be trouble. That trouble could come at any time. And if you remember how we gunny sack politically, remember the incident in Nyamarambe, 2007 election? This happened in September, where Ruto went to a rally and he was then, they didn't beat him up. He comes from a proud, he comes from Nandi or near there where they ran. So he ran into a bush and disappeared. But somebody else who doesn't come from a running community was beaten up very badly and hospitalized. That incident was stored up by the public and found expression in the post-election violence. People were saying in the violence of 2007, we are avenging the fact that Ruto lost his shoes as he ran into the bushes in Yamarambe. So the public stores up grievances in the same way that people do store up grievances domestically. We have stored up huge amounts of grievances since 2013, and we have stored up and will continue to store up grievances since we don't have mechanisms or opportunities for addressing them. So that is why the peace campaign can't go away. It is a replacement for the fact that we don't have grievance solving mechanisms. And that is how then the media gets sucked into this, because the media also knows that there are no opportunities for solving problems, and if it goes beyond a particular line in its reportage, in its criticism, it could be the cause for things tipping over back into a situation of violence. Thank you very much.